This video was made possible by the support of ESO University Patreons. Big thanks to these people who help us keep the lights on and the server hamsters fed. If you'd like to support ESOU's community and website, check out the Patreon link in the video description below. How are you doing?
Oh, getting there, dude. Literally just finished the stream.
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking.
You not streaming today?
No. I had to do a 24-hour stream. Yes.
Oh,
so,
I didn't even see that. Mind you, I had the kids.
It was wild.
I had the kids yesterday. I didn't stream, and we were very, very busy. 24-hour streams, dude. I've done one ever. They're rough. They're really rough.
But you get used to them if you do a lot of them. Although I wouldn't recommend it. It's probably healthy.
How many have you done?
Quite a few. During Midnight Mayhem, I had to do a 48-hour one, 35-hour one, 30-hour one, and quite a few 24-hour ones.
Did you say 40?
Yeah, 48. That's how I found out Twitch caps it at 48, because they close your stream automatically if you reach 48 hours.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, YouTube has 12.
Oh, YouTube has 12? I didn't
yeah,
know that.
They don't stop the stream, but you can't release the video as a playback, if you like, unless it's 12 hours or under. I didn't find that out until after the 24 hours either.
Ooh.
Yeah, that hurt.
That's pretty interesting.
That disappeared in history, and it never happened ever.
So I know you're really busy, because you really are busy, and I really do appreciate the time you're taking.
No problem.
To do this. But yeah, I guess for the people watching or listening to this, once it goes up on the web, I guess tell me about yourself, because I think this is the first time we've actually even talked to each other in voice since, I guess we kind of talked to each other
Since
a little
Greymore.
yeah, the pre-PTS build we were invited to.
Correct.
Yeah. Doing the normal kinds of. I think that was the only time, and I don't know if anyone knows this or if you remember this, but you and I think, not an interaction. I think we actually not met each other. I don't know how to say it. Okay, I'll just say interacted. I think there was that one hard mode VMod video I put out years and years ago, and you were actually one of the comments. But this was back when you were on a YouTube called
Was I really?
Yeah. You can look. I'll send a screenshot to you after. But you were called Xynode PS4. I think was your old YouTube name, and this was before you became like a.
Oh my god, that's so long.
That was so long. That was like one tam Rio Homestead. That was.
Was I being an ass?
No, you said congratulations. Oh, what a nice guy.
Oh, thank God for that.
Yeah.
Was your name on Netflix at the time, or was it different?
It was the same.
Okay, so that would have been one of the first video releases of hard mode.
Yeah,
definitely. I was congratulating you for that, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my god, time moves fast.
Time really does move fast. Yeah.
I've been doing this for like almost 4 years. So that was.
After the VMO Arvo, you were like, you know what? I'm gonna make content.
I think, what was the date for the video?
Oh my goodness. It was at the start of 2016 or something. I have to look. I'll definitely send you a screenshot after this.
Yeah, because I think my first videos were officially. I think my first one was sort of September, October time, 2016. Before then, I'd kind of just uploaded the odd video here and there for nothing serious. But then it turned out that what I wanted to be able to display was doable, and people liked it, so it continued from there.
So is that how you started? You just upload some videos, people say, oh, I like your videos, and then you just went on?
Kind of. The first ever stream I did was very, very unsuccessful, because when you first start out, you think people want to see best of this or highest of this and all the rest of it, and while that content does have a market, starting out, that's not a good thing to do. So what I did is I went into VMA. I was like, oh, I'm doing VMA, and people must want to see VMA, surely. And I flawlessed it on my StanDK, my first ever stream. Back around one Tamriel, I had 0 viewers the whole time. No one saw it. And I was like, well, this is a bit tougher than it looks. So then the stuff I've been working on throughout the whole game anyway, because I've always made my own stuff, I thought, well, I'm looking for it. I can't see it anywhere. I must be able to share it. So I did. And then it went from there. It turned out people wanted to see new stuff, and the rest is history, really. I mean, on a simple standpoint, that's where it basically started. Is just want to be able to share stuff that can be done that I haven't seen.
Yeah, I think that's one thing a lot of people don't understand about what you already do in terms of content creation. It's very rough starting out. It can be very discouraging. I mean, same as you. I didn't have anyone watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be very discouraging. And then you see other content creators like Outcast or whatever, and you're like, oh, how do I get to that? People just don't know that for every like successful content creator like yourself, there's probably at least 100,000, 1,000,000 people.
Easily.
Easily, right?
Yeah.
Trying. So yeah.
That's the thing. When you generalize about content creating as well, because lots of people do it. They're like, oh, loads of creators do this or they do that. And they think you're talking about specific names because they're the only ones they know of. Especially this time where people are in lockdown and all the rest of it, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of unknown or up-and-coming names that are just all doing either the same thing or similar things or completely different. There's absolutely tons of them. So knowing your market is one thing, but to the untrained eye, there is a shocking amount of creators, absolutely tons of them. It is sometimes scary to consider how many there actually are, because now it's so much easier for people to obtain the technology, if you like, to be able to do it.
Oh yeah.
Especially on consoles and such as well. You just press a button and you're done.
Yeah, I guess people are curious about how you started. I guess we got that in order. From a simple standpoint of view, you started making videos, VMA, streaming, and just liking.
I was looking for ways to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was looking for ways to explain to people how to do stuff that they couldn't do.
Right.
So I think one of my first ones was when VMA weapons, when they first came out, people were looking up builds to do VMA, and unfortunately, the builds to do VMA were builds with VMA weapons.
Oh my god, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember one of Deltia's build videos, and he was like, he was going with his build, and he had a VMA bow, and I was like, wait a minute, something's not right here.
Yeah, exactly.
How
exactly.
You
like, well, how do I get that? So one of my first videos was actually how to do VMA with a stand DK without Maelstrom weapons. Like, how do you get them? So I made something that was not the hardest hitting thing you'd ever seen, not the biggest glass cannon you've ever seen, but kind of complementing all different areas that you might struggle with. So your resistances, your health, and your sustain, and all that kind of stuff in one. And it actually went really well as well. So I was trying to answer questions that people couldn't answer. And again, that was a starting point that helped really, really well in the early stages. And it is scary, though, when you first start out, because you are putting yourself in a very personal situation where you are going to be judged no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
And getting past that hurdle is quite hard. If you can, then definitely stick to it. It's rough starting, though. Really rough.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of lockdown, how have you been? Like,
well,
over there?
The houses have been a bit awkward during the summer because where I live... Excuse me, I've got a cough. I'm going to mute my mic a second.
Go for it.
Oh, there we go. Not enough fluid. The houses here are built to keep the heat in during the winter.
Oh.
And they don't have aircon. So when it's summer, it's baking. Like, indoors can be 10 to 15 degrees Celsius hotter than it is outside. Doing that while streaming is really, really tricky. Plus, you've got all the people in your house that are usually either out or working or at school or whatever. So that everyone's got body heat and all the rest of it. It's stressful temperature-wise for the environment, I guess, that you're in. And then the lockdown itself, I mean, no one really knows what was going on. Are we allowed to do this? Are we allowed to do that? So we just try to stay sane. But yeah, everyone's going back to school tomorrow, so I can definitely get a lot more recording done. But it has been stressful because if you work in your house and you've got everyone in your house in the same room as you, you can't get everything done. And then you do have everyone else, like, outside of your house thinking, I want to watch some YouTube. And you can't deliver. So you're like, you can't win. So working has been tricky, but it's been steady at the same time. So some videos have still gone out. Some streams have still been done. So hopefully that isn't too disappointing for people.
Oh, I get it. I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that you're a family man too, because I didn't know. Oh, Xynode has kids.
Yeah, 3.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've got a son from a previous relationship, and then 2 daughters in this relationship my partner had before I moved in. So technically 3 between us.
I'm guessing they're like elementary school.
One, I won't go names because I don't do that, but one of them is 9. My son is 9, and 2 girls are 12 and 16.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I feel old.
I mean, they do grow up fast.
You're not wrong there, dude. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Happens very quickly.
I actually got a handful of questions of people wanting us to, I guess, talk about, or me ask you. The first one is, what, I mean, I think you're like one of the very few, or I think the only content creator right now actually playing across every platform and every server.
Yes.
Am I correct? Right? So you play on Xbox,
I am
PS4, PC, which is, I don't know how you do it, man.
Yes.
I have a lot of respect for you. For doing that. That's a lot of work and time commitment. Oh my god.
It is. My Xbox is lacking a bit though, because I had some issues with that. My Xbox One S broke very, very early on. Then I got an Xbox One X to replace it, and that broke very early on as well. And then lockdown hit, and I couldn't get it repaired. So I spent a long time not being able to play on Xbox, but now that's back up and running. I have stream issues with it, but as far as the console itself is concerned, I am now more available for that side of the community, so I can do it again. But yeah, all 6 servers.
Yeah. What's your favorite platform in the server?
That's not fair. That's like picking your favorite kid.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Come on.
Okay. I have to say that my main is actually PS4 EU. And I do like the way that the game works on console. The controls are really, really solid for that type of peripheral, so I really do like it anyway. I'd have to say that will have to be my favorite because my main is there, but across the board, it really doesn't matter. All the servers are technically the same. They just got different people on them in different time zones.
I'll take the official answer as PS4 EU.
I think the official answer is yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you broke some hearts with that.
My audience will kill me if I lie about that.
Oh yeah, here's another one. What's your favorite class and role, I guess?
I would say role-wise, I play all 3, but I prefer somewhere in the middle between tanking and DPS. Stam DPS specifically, although I've got a lot of mag builds, I really like getting in the face of stuff. So Stam DK is my main, and if I have to pick a favorite, I would have to go with that. But I'm torn between tank and DPS. I equally have as much fun with both of them. Healer, sure, I can have fun with, but sometimes you get in a situation where I'm in a pug and the tank's not doing anything, DPS isn't doing anything, and I feel useless. So I'm thinking, right, this is a typing session where I just have to explain mechanics, which is fine because I teach anyway, but that becomes sometimes a little tricky. But tanking, I can take control of the situation. DPS, I can do a bit more than I can as a healer instead. So I preference those 2 out of the 3. Which one out of the 2 I prefer the most is very difficult to decide. Because it can be a lot of fun.
I guess in a sense too, as a DPS, you also have some control of the situation.
You do. Yeah, and especially with the mechanics require your group to split up and interrupt this over there or do that over there. You can equally be as important as that. And it's not that you can't be important as a healer. Healers are very, very important. But personally, for me, preference-wise, tank and DPS are my top 2, specifically Stam.
I guess what's your favorite class then, in terms of DPS?
It's got to be Dragon Knight. I can't say a favorite because I like them all. Yeah, it's got to be a Dragon Knight.
It's got to be a Dragon Knight for tanking and DPSing. So
for tanking?
Oh, for tanking.
Oh, that's a tough one because one of my most successful builds and actually one of my most fun for myself is actually a DK. But I'm having a lot of fun with the Warden and the Necro.
Oh yeah.
So that's a tough one.
On Necro. It's so good.
Their ulti regen is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
And the utility and buffs it provides to the group.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even right now, trial teams are looking at Necro tank because of power and grasp. Certainly.
Yep. Yeah, really, really handy, especially since they altered it. Really nice. So it's a tough one. I don't think I can pick a favorite for tanking right now. I could still say DK because DK is overall my favorite class, but I'm messing with the other ones quite a lot. I think Templar tank is probably my least.
Yeah, that's usually what most people say. Templar tanking is like, it's.
My only reason for that is the CCing. You can do it with other skills, like you can pick Sigic Order and stuff like that, but the CC utility for the Templar, doesn't feel like it's built in as much as perhaps the other classes. So I think it's missing kind of its own immobilize, if you like. Because if you chain stuff in and then try and time stop it, it doesn't work out.
Right. It's also missing a class-based heal for tanks, because every other
That's
class
very
has
true.
a class-based heal, or at least a health-based heal.
Yeah.
And Templar tanks doesn't have that. And when beginner players try Templar tank, they don't have Alliance Warrior level or anything. So,
Yep.
they're missing Vigor.
That's a mess.
Right. I think actually speaking of the Alliance War thing, what do you think about the whole Rapids and the Vigor being swapped?
I can appreciate people are annoyed that Rapids got removed into a different slot, but I do support the fact that they've moved Vigor up, because when you see a lot of upcoming stamina players or new players and they want to try out a stamina type character, some classes are slightly restricted in their survival when you start out. So getting a nice heal to be able to use at level 10 is actually very, very helpful and might help them grow as a player rather than just going,
oh, yeah.
well, I have to stay mad because I don't have anything. So that actually I do think helps quite a lot.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think the swap might be annoying or inconvenient, especially for people doing like overland content or
yeah, definitely
survey. But I think the usefulness of Vigor is gonna outweigh all that.
Yeah, it does. I agree. I think that forcing people to have to go into PvP and farm for say X amount of time, because they could have a bad day in Cyrodiil and get no real XP, or they could just have a bad day in Battlegrounds and they'll inevitably get it, but it's a bit longer. Giving you that, here's level 10, here's a skill heal, done. It's much more satisfying for the overall player base, in my opinion, when they're starting out as a stamina player, or even as a new character if they're already experienced. It helps out a lot faster.
Same thing that could be said for PvP. Like PvPers have to do PvE as well.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no real answer to that one in terms of gear.
That's right, because if you are, say for example, you want to be a Stamplar in PvP and you want to just get straight into PvP, you can go straight in really, really early on, but you've got no heal till what, Alliance level, what was it? Assault level 5 or 6, something stupid. I think it was 5. Well, been 6 actually. But it's now moved, so yeah, that helps a lot to get people straight into those roles as well, rather than just getting nuked throughout their entire career until they've unlocked the skill.
Yeah, for sure. You said DK overall was your favorite.
I'm gonna have to say DK overall, just because I main it. Otherwise, people would complain at me.
And you
what about your Sork? I know.
You said you go with the Stave DK, right?
Yes,
yeah. What do you think about Stone Giant? Because I was doing this exact same kind of one-on-one podcast with Skinny Cheeks together. I don't know if you know Skinny Cheeks.
Yeah, I know Skinny.
Yeah. And he and I talked about Stone Giant, and we were like, "What is the skill? Like, what do you feel about it? Like, do you think it's good enough? Do you think it's?
I like it, actually. Yeah, I use it on one of my builds. So I've got 2 different Stam DK builds. One is for more ease of use, and the other one is more advanced and keep up your dots and buffs and all that kind of stuff. Right. The ease of use one, I do incorporate that into the rotation, and the benefit from it is actually quite nice. So you're bringing that to the group if you like. But it does kind of pigeonhole you into using that particular spammable rather than utilizing everything else in some situations. So you can mix and match the dot class identity of the DK, but then that doesn't make sense alongside of it. What they did with it, I think, was for the better. It did make sense that you had a physical throwing ability, but I don't use it in every single build. So my main one is all damage over time, so I focus on raw dots. The other one is a mixture of things, but it's not a master of anything particularly. It's a kind of balance of everything all at the same time. And some people preference one or the other rather than a mixture. So you could use it as a spam ball consistently all the time, but you're then limited to what else you can really use. So I think it's one of those things where it's a step in the right direction, but I think it needs a little bit of adjusting to break the mold of it a little bit. I think it's too focused on one thing. The buff room is nice, granted, and obviously anyone can use it. But again, that's also risky because they want choice, and they did have issues with the Engulfing Flames for the Mag DK.
Right.
It's very easy to put it onto a tank. Exactly. Right. It's very easy to put it onto a tank. Then they change it so you need 3k spell damage plus to be able to utilize it to its full potential. Stone Giant is currently in that risque kind of area where it's designed to do damage and apply a buff, but the buff is easily acquired by something that's not a DPS. so it then makes it obsolete on the DPS.
And
so risky.
Sorry.
Go on.
Yeah, right. And they definitely, I think, tried to curb the use of it by tanks, but they failed.
They did. They did. I'll agree. They did fail with it.
They made it so clunky to the point now that the most StamDK DPS I know, and actually I'm in the same boat as you because I used to main StamDK DPS. And I tried StamDK and MagDK and VMA recently, and it was so bad for me on StamDK. I never thought I'd see the day where I would prefer the MagDK over StamDK and VMA, but the day came. I don't know, like it's just so clunky.
It does feel clunky. The only thing that I could do with it, and you do have to pay very close attention to your buff up times, is keep an eye on when it's about to fall off or when you've hit your maximum stats. Because the first initial cast of it, you can't animation cancel swap it because it has that 0.4 millisecond timer, same as Dawnbreaker and stuff like that. So what I had to do is incorporate a light attack straight after, then a skill straight after, and a swap, so that I would never get stuck on the bar. So you could apply it, light, skill, swap. You couldn't apply it and swap. So you had to be very specific about where you put it. And if you got caught short on a rotation or on a bar swap or anything and you mistimed it, as a tank or a DPS, you could get in trouble.
Right, exactly.
So there's room for adaptation towards the skill if you pay attention to it, but it's such a quick thing to have to pay attention to. 4 casts and then have to start again. So the initial, then the 3. Is not really like many other skills where you get a little bit more lenience as far as your swaps and stuff are concerned. You can get stuck very easily. So again, I think there's a lot about that skill that is in the right direction, but there's also a lot about it they could probably adjust to make it a little bit smoother and a little bit more desirable, shall we say, for more roles rather than just this is really easy to put on a tank.
I agree. And in terms of paying attention, I think that's one thing PC players are kind of better off in because of add-ons.
Correct, yeah.
Add-on for it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, go on, carry on.
No, go on, sorry.
They do have buff timers in the game, and it's very different for me to say it because I do it as a job, so I'm very aware of what's going on. And yourself, you do this as a job also, and this is something that you're aware of. The buffs and debuffs all have their own meanings and timings and all the rest of it, and you can kind of get that built into your own mental timer or visual timer if you're looking at it. Not everybody can do that, so there is an advantage on PC where you can obviously add something to your screen to make it a little bit more obvious, but I would preference something a little stronger than that as a base game addition, so more people can benefit from stuff like that. There are some things that add-ons are good for, and it's giving ZOS ideas. Right. There are some things that should be in the game. One of them is tick on or off your buffs and debuffs, so you can choose which ones you can see. Then you can just single them out.
Yeah, like I watch these console streamers, and it's like so jarring. It's so overwhelming for me to watch console streamers, like, 'cause there's an entire line of buffs and debuffs and all that, like just going from one end of the screen to the other end of the screen. I'm just like, oh my god. And that's one of the reasons why I've always like pushed for like 2 things I've always wanted for console players. First, a better buff debuff tracker, like this default one. Oh my god, horrendous. And the second is some sort of it's like something like dressing room or alpha gear. Like that would be
100%
immense help for console players too, and it would be also give more of a competitive edge too, right? Because PC
of course
have access to all these add-ons, but console players don't, and it's a huge
that's the thing,
quality of life loss. Right.
Definitely. I mean, the dressing room thing is something that should be in the game above all. I mean, it's something that has been in many other games. Maybe it's something that they were considering later, but just haven't got round to. But it is something that does make a substantial difference. And if you considered it on a competitive side of things, if you were going to compare one server versus another, you can't put them in an actual fair fight because of that. Whereas if you put it in as a base game, everyone would have access to it, everybody could do it, and it would be much more balanced. And then you could just say, look, do you know what? PS4 NA versus PC NA, haha, we've got the same tools. In an ideal world, that would be great, but you couldn't do that with all add-ons. But that is one that I do think should be in the game. Another one is probably the market and stuff, but the dressing room does add a massive change to overall performance in lots of different areas. Like even between ad pools, you can just click a button and switch stuff. That would be very helpful across the board at base game. It would be really, really cool to introduce it. I try to avoid add-ons when I'm on PC, so I don't rely on them because I do play on 4 other platforms that are console, but there are some that are very, very nice.
In terms of performance, and I think everyone's been talking about performance this patch with the trials being which platform is like the best for you besides PC?
EU servers are better for me. NA servers I tend to have a bit of ping, which isn't too bad. I mean, you can work with high ping anyway. It's just when it spikes, that's when it's the problem. So PC NA was bad initially on launch of Stonefawn for me, but after the first week or so, when they introduced a slight kick to the server, that wasn't too bad. But PC EU and PS4 EU, I have pretty much zero lag in most situations. The trials on NA the other week, though, they were horrendous. The warrior in hard mode Hellra was just running around in circles.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it was crazy. I tried to hit a synergy like 8 times and it didn't fire. It was a bit messy. But I'm positive about that kind of stuff. I'm hoping that over time that's going to be alleviated.
Same.
But NA is worse for me because I don't know if it's location or server or whatever, but I know people that live in the US that have really good, solid connections on the EU. I know people that live next to them that have really good, solid connections on NA, and they're quite the opposite, and they're other side of the world. So what adds to that, I don't know, but for me, it's always the EU servers are better. Especially did I have to say PC? PC is obviously the best, yeah, of course. PS4.
PS4 is better. Okay. for sure.
No, I don't have really any issues between PS4 EU and PC EU. They're very, very close, but we are on the edge of receiving PS5, so our frame rates will be able to go up hopefully, which will be quite nice because that's something we do lack. Obviously, PC, it depends on how good your rig is as to how well the game performs versus obviously other issues like server side. But I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm guessing you're excited more about the PS5 than the Xbox, whatever.
Yes.
I don't even know what they're calling the new Xbox.
We're not even going to mess around with that one. That's 100% yes.
Okay.
I will get Xbox because I need it for my job. And I will play it because I appreciate people like the Xbox. But I am 100% more supporting the PS5.
Oh, here's another one.
Just personal preference. The first ever Xbox was brilliant. They changed technology as we know it today as far as consoles are concerned because they allowed you to add your own music, had its own hard drive. Oh, yeah. It was brilliant. And then over time, and people will disagree with me with this, over time they've tried to rush the systems, and I feel like that has been a bit of a problem. Whereas Sony kind of were more patient. They still had issues, but they came out a bit better on release. So I've kind of stuck with Sony as my favorite, but I do play them all.
That's pretty interesting. Oh, here's another one. In terms of content you put out, builds and guides, particularly the guides for mechanics, which even I watch. I think on the Bethesda stream, Gina was asking me like, so what are the mechanics for this boss? And I was like, I actually don't know because the people I run with, they just kill it before any mechanics show. And I'm just like, oh man, I actually thought to myself there at that moment, maybe does I have a video I can just watch on?
Not yet, but they're coming, don't worry.
And, yeah, I think that's a great thing you do in showing mechanics, because not everyone's gonna, be good or, have enough experience to just kind of skip mechanics.
Correct.
So I guess, within the context of that, what, I guess, do you prefer doing more build videos or do you prefer doing mechanic videos?
I think they're both, in my opinion, as far as what I want to present, I think they're both equally as important because at the end of the day, I'm presenting a way to help people's gameplay for them. Right. Whether that's a build they may be comfortable with or just like the idea of, or content that they can't understand and they get to be taught the mechanics of it. Either way, as long as it's helping people, I'm happy. I think the mechanics ones are very useful for players in general, but mostly as long as you're teaching them something they don't know. So that's why the build videos tend to be so long as well. I don't want them to be that long, but I can't help it because I have to put all the information in. Inside the videos, you'll go through and hear all manner of different things about passives and tricks and all this kind of stuff. Just important bits that people need to know. And that's the same for the mechanic videos as well. There may be a tiny little snippet bit in there that someone didn't know. And I always want to be able to deliver at least one thing that whoever's watching didn't know about.
I found out that a lot of people request written guides, written build forms.
They do.
And I know you have a website. It's a pretty cool looking website, by the way. Xynodegaming.com.
Thank you. Correct.
Do you put written forms there?
Yes, I do. But the written guides are usually kind of check boxes or
oh, okay.
What's the word for it? It's a checklist of things that the build has. It's not necessarily a full description of everything that you need to do. The video has more information in it. But yeah, the gear is there. The champion points are there. The fashion is now there for some of the newer ones because that got requested a lot.
Oh, yeah. What are you
and
what's that thing
a brief
wearing?
rundown. Oh, yeah, dude. Fashion's insane. People go mad for it. Like, what's your armor? What's this? Like, I will add it to the new videos. Don't worry. So it is a breakdown. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a breakdown of the build, but it's not all the information. So most of the questions are in the video. It's just a case of if you want to go back and go, oh, what champion point should I do? What gear should I be using? I've forgotten this. It's there for that. It's for reference. That's what I'm trying to say. But they might get more in depth later. We'll see. At the moment, it's a reference sheet.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I guess we have to talk about speaking of builds and mechanics and not mechanics. Speaking of videos and content. I think the biggest elephant in the room is people wondering why we're not at each other's throats right now while we're talking.
Because we're professionals, that's why.
Right. And, I mean, it's like, okay, so before this one-on-one session with you, and honestly before the whole podcast idea thing, I floated some names around as to who I should talk to, and when I brought your name up, because I've always wanted to talk to you, right? And
okay.
Other people, right? Some people were like, "Oh, are you sure about that?" Because there was this idea that if I talk to you, I'd be betraying this sense of it's us versus them, and this sense goes for everyone where we're involved, right? Because we're both involved. Because for a lot of people, you personify the majority, and I personify the minority, and there's a sense that in ESO's community, at least, that it's meta versus non-meta. You're either a fun-loving casual or a dumb casual, or an elitist, scum, or a smart player. And I've talked about this at great length on my stream and that one video where everyone just sort of missed the point. But I'd like to know what your thoughts are on this, and I'm sure other people, particularly players who do appreciate work or don't appreciate it, can better understand where both of us stand on this at the very least, and maybe clear up some misunderstandings.
Generally, people will interpret what they like, so they won't understand what goes on in the background. They won't understand what the point of someone's content is. And it's very easy for people to make select groups and go us versus them, even when the creators don't say that themselves. So that's what tends to happen with inside communities. And it's not necessarily the whole community or the creators' fault in general. It's just a case of when people like something, they like to be in a group of the same people that like that. And then when someone else likes something else, they like to be in a group of what they like. It's kind of a safety in numbers type thing. And then eventually there's always going to be a clash in between where people are fighting against each other about what you should or shouldn't do. And it becomes a case of where things tend to get out of hand, but nobody really knows where it started. So I tried to avoid any conflicts like that because, first of all, it's not necessary. And secondly, it's usually fabricated within just a follow me or else type attitude with specific people, not necessarily creators, but inside the game. For example, one person could shout out in local chat, look at this is amazing, and someone goes, no it's not, that's crap, and that instantly starts off the argument, and that's your starting point for that kind of war. It's just people in general, and that's where it tends to stem from. It's just small arguments within two sides of an opinion growing with followers each, and there's not a lot you can do to alleviate that, to be honest, except tell people that, to be honest, creating is part of your job, and professionals don't sit there and scream at each other for no good reason.
I think us talking about this alone will, alleviate a lot of it. Because hopefully, people just think I hate you. And I'm just like, what?
What?
No, seriously.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. And people think you hate me, and I'm like, bro.
Dude,
Like, I like Xynode. And all the interactions I own, all positive. And in the end, I respect him too as a content creator. Like, people just don't understand it. It's just like us versus them, meta versus non-meta. I mean, like you do like non-meta stuff, right? And then you talked about the negativity and hurdles earlier in content creation, and I get that because I also do like non-meta builds for like four-man content and stuff, and I've got lambasted for that. Or if I do like meta things, then
you'll never please everyone.
Me for that. Exactly, you can never please everyone.
No,
and I just don't get it. I don't get this whole like we can't coexist, or it has to be one way or another way. I just don't get it personally, and it seems to me this is more prevalent in ESO from what I've noticed. I don't know why.
Ooh, I don't know. Warcraft's pretty bad for it.
Really?
It can be.
I feel like Warcraft is sort of like I don't know. Like how long have you played Warcraft?
I played it in the past, so I've played MMOs for over 20 years.
Right.
Warcraft I played for a short period of time. Short enough for me to get a good enough gauge of the game, and it wasn't for me. And that's the thing that people forget, that wasn't for me. So someone could look at your content and say, oh my god, that's amazing, or someone else could say that's not for me. Someone could look at mine and say exactly the same things, and instead of that, that's not for me, it has to be shut down. Stop it, stop doing it. And it's just a people thing, and it's not just ESO, it's lots of other games. But at the moment, because ESO is so high up there, it's obviously very, very popular, so you're going to see more of it. Warcraft back in its day did have a lot of that. I don't know what it's like now, but it was pretty bad. And again, it's just masses of people trying to find a way to communicate with each other, and sometimes it's just arguments. Happens on the forums too. I avoid the forums.
Yeah, I think a lot of people avoid the forums.
Yeah, I see it. It's not that I don't see it. I mean, it happens, and it's just a case of, do you know what? Everyone's got something to say, so say it. And that's on the positive side of things as well. With every negative comment, you have 100 really, really positive ones. It's one extreme to another. So you can never please everyone is the simplest message. And you please as many people as you can. And sorry I didn't make everyone else happy. It's that's all you can do. Yeah. But no, we've got no reason to beat each other's friends. No content creators do, really. It's a different game to what a viewer is taking part in. The content creating world is a very rough environment. You do get a lot of positive, you do get a lot of negativity. It makes more sense for people to work together or appreciate that other people exist than it does to just hack each other to pieces. Because if you do that, you're only going to end up with a negative channel, and eventually, regardless of how much you grow to start with, that's going to make you take a downward spiral. So never ever do that. People have conflicts, of course, but outright we hate each other crap, but that never washes. Not in any content creator. And even makeup videos and stuff like that, they have their little arguments. It's never going to work out.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. It's just mostly, it's not the content creators, because I don't know why people think that, but I think it's mostly people who follow me or you that get into these kinds of conflicts, which is unfortunate. I just don't see why there should be.
It's the world. It's how it is.
I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I like that as an answer. It is what it is.
It is. That's the hardest part, is accepting sometimes that, do you know what? There's nothing I can do.
Well, I guess we'll see.
I said on my stream the other day, I was like, I was in the Greymore testing. There was myself, Ninja, Outcast, Nephis. There was all of us trying to do this last pull, and we couldn't do it. So we just hid around the corner, killed one ad, died, hid around the corner. And people completely skipped the part where I said I was in the group with Nephis. You completely skipped that. They ignored it. I'm like, well, I can't force feed you the information if it's there and you don't want to take it. It's funny. Yeah, it amuses me sometimes, and then other times I just facepalm a little bit. Like your video, what was it, Captain Spreadsheet?
Oh yeah, that was a satire, just making fun of the situation.
Dude, I even commented on it saying it was funny.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
It was funny.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: if I have to make fun of people, like publicly, like well, not people, but a situation, I have to make fun of everybody. People don't understand that.
I saw you with the Corona video too. That was funny.
Oh my god, that VSO or not VSO, but it was like it's still there, I think. The Cragmorn bug, the poison. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That was fun.
I think what people miss out on though is one of your videos. I actually watched it, was pretty hilarious too. It's like where you're doing these outros, where you were.
Oh no!
I'm gonna link that. I'm gonna link that in the video description when I post it.
Only human.
I think everyone should watch it. I think everyone should watch it because that is actually I think a problem, right? A lot of content creators tend to have it.
Yes.
I messed up too. I stammer or I just say something stupid.
Of course.
Right. Yeah. I found that hilarious. I think everyone should watch it. That's pretty good.
I think there's 4 of them, and I try to do them when there's certain checkpoints because I keep back a lot of recordings, and it is a thing that happens. I'm sure you do it yourself. You're recording something, you know how important it is. You're on a timer because you know how long it takes to put the videos together in the first place, and you just keep miswording or
mispronouncing,
saying something in the wrong manner or wrong way or whatever, and it just happens. It happens even in movies. You get outtakes and all the rest of it. I thought, you know what? Someone might find this amusing. And I swear at myself royally when I get things wrong. And I had a comment on my YouTube once, and he was like, why are you swearing at your audience? I don't think this is very nice. And they were serious. They honestly thought I was swearing at my audience. And to go back to the previous point about going backwards too much, that is how it is for people. They perceive things wrong. It's like, oh, you two must hate each other, or you're against this, or you're against that. Like, no, I'm not swearing at you or anybody else. I'm just doing my stuff. And yeah, that video, the first one, I think the first bloopers one, that got 2 different reactions. One was, oh my God, this is hilarious. And the other one was, what's wrong with you? And the only thing that made me laugh above all, I guess, when releasing those videos was, you know, you have a review comment section on YouTube that nobody else gets to see.
Yeah.
Well, there were comments in there referencing the video, so they were totally innocent, and I had to click like 100 allow because they were just full of swear words, but so was the video itself. So they were trying to like relate to you and find things funny, but it filtered them all out.
God, YouTube's been really weird lately.
Yep. But it happens.
There's a couple more. I don't know how pressed you are for time.
I've got about 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay. 10 minutes, and you have to go teach someone one-on-one, right?
Yeah, I have a one-to-one after this one.
How many people do you teach one-on-one? Out of curiosity, like,
how many have I done?
Like, yeah, or rather, like, is it often requested? I don't know.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, a lot.
Okay. A lot, hundreds, thousands.
I think I've, in total, if I roughly estimate, somewhere in the region of about 350 one-to-ones over the last sort of 3 years, but there are several stacked up as well, schedule-wise.
How long did it last for? That's a lot. That's a chunk of your time, right?
Yes, yeah. It's an hour per session. And some people get 2 at a time. Some people do 1 at the beginning of the month, 1 at the end, or sometimes they just save them up until they want to use them.
That's pretty cool. I guess people would just, they want to learn tanking, DPSing, healing?
Some want to better themselves in certain content. Some want to have me look at their rotation and see where they're going wrong. Could be something just cleaning up and stuff like that. Other people want to work on personal builds of theirs that they want me to enhance because perhaps they missed something. Other people just want to play the game and do a dungeon or something, or just chill out. And other people do actually play other games or just sit on comms for it while talking to the creator, if you like. They like to speak to the person behind the channel. So it's an hour of my time where I can dedicate it to them personally. And I've had a lot of that, to be fair. And so far, I think so far without fail, every single one that's ever had one has always come back for at least one more.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool that you engage your community like that.
I try, but it's very tough.
Right, yeah, it's a lot of time, right? You got the kids,
yes.
You got life, you got work, right? It's a lot of time.
It's just scaling that amount of interaction is the difficult part, which is why the one-to-one side of things is there. Because if it was I'm available for thousands of people guaranteed, and I let one person down for one question, I would have already tied myself into that and I would have already failed. So I tried to say I'm available as much as I can be, but one-to-ones, that's when you specifically get me to talk to you, that kind of stuff. Because it gets a bit nuts.
Right. I guess this is a perfect transition point. Speaking of content, I guess, do you like doing more 4 main dungeons or trials? And if it's trials, which is your favorite trial or dungeon?
I really like doing trials. I do a lot of dungeons, a hell of a lot of dungeons, but I really like doing trials. It's just when you're on the stream, it's very difficult to kind of get those groups together unless you stick to the same one over and over and over and over. And then sometimes that can be tricky because people aren't available. So it's hard to display trials all the time, but I do really enjoy them. I used to teach them a hell of a lot, and I still do on the channel and in one-to-ones and all the rest of it. But you probably will see me on stream doing more dungeons than anything. As to favorite trials, you are going to hate me for this. Sanctum Orphidia.
What do you mean I'm gonna hate you for it? That's my favorite fucking trial, dude.
You as well?
What? Yes, that's my number one
yes!
trial. Bro,
come on.
we gotta do a second video sometime together. I'll come on PC,
definitely.
We'll do this. I'll tank it for you, dude.
Excellent. I'm max on PC actually, so that I won't be so squishy. I love that trial because it teaches you so many basic things that will teach you the harder stuff.
That's the thing. People these days, I guess that's sort of a problem too from the devs end, because people always want to go for the shiny stuff, right? The newest gear, the best,
of course,
whatever, and they go to Cloud Rest or Sunsprout, right? But they just kind of ignore these Praglorns, especially VSO, and they just don't learn anything. They don't get the fundamentals down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people always ask me, oh, why VSO? I mean, and I'm like, it has everything.
It
has everything. It has everything. How can you not like it? I don't know. I'm so glad that you said ESO. God, we gotta do it now. We gotta do it one together.
Definitely.
One per week, dude. I'll take.
I'm up for that.
No one wants to do something with video. Have you noticed that? No one wants to do something with video.
No, they don't. They're scared of it because they think they're gonna kill each other.
Exactly. Right. Because it's a vicious cycle. They're scared. They don't want to do it because they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
They don't know how to do it because they never do it.
Exactly. And
exactly.
The only thing everyone's ever had from Sanctum Orphidia, whether it be normal or hard or vet even, is every single person has got that golden sky shard. Every single one has fell off the bridge.
Yeah.
The trial's brilliant. It's got risk for reward all over it. You've got physical damage, you've got, or poison if you like, you've got your magical damage from the overcharges, you've got trolls that knock you down, you've got big spread and AoEs that you have to try and not spread because they'll get worse and worse and worse. It's positional discipline and blocking and all that kind of stuff all into one. And then the hard mode, I say this on my stream as well, it's the easiest hard mode to do, but it's the easiest hard mode to mess up.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
One wrong move, everyone gets boom from a World Shaper. Absolutely love it. Fantastic trial, and it is the training ground, in my opinion, for the harder stuff. I like it. It's really cool.
Yes, I love it too. It's my number one favorite. God, I love that place. I'll like if I had a wedding, I'd skip the wedding. Okay, I guess one last question before you have to go.
Go for it.
All right. Where is this question? Oh, what's the one thing you think this game will, or rather what you want to see in this game next? Because we now have 6 classes, right? And
correct.
A lot of people have been asking for, by the way, but not really suggesting anything, for champion points rework. And I guess, what do you look forward to the most in terms of content next? What do you think this
It looks to me, I mean, I could be miles off. But I've mentioned this in a couple of podcasts in the past, and it's now starting to look that way as well. It looks like they're trying to consolidate stuff for back end and obviously just for the game in general, just from a player perspective. It looks like armor's being consolidated, which means potentially penetration could be consolidated, less champion point trees, for example, and that would also mean that would open up the game, like literally crack it wide open. Because if pen is one stat instead of 2 separate ones, maybe weapon or spell damage would be 1 stat, or whatever they were going to do with it, which means the possibility for different builds just explodes. So I'm anticipating some form of consolidation in that area, and if it does, that's going to really change things. I hope they do, but I can't say for sure. But it looks like they're going down that route. They are squashing stuff down.
Yeah, they did a lot of itemization and skill audits.
I mean, if you imagine, say for example, if pen got consolidated just like some of the armor stuff is now, because some armor sets are just armor rather than physical and spell.
Right.
I mean, I think all of them are now. If they transferred that into champion points as well, and instead of physical resistance, magic resistance, that was consolidated into just resistance, that cuts down a lot. Back end is very, very nice as well if they were to do that. If they did the opposite side of the scale and did penetration and spell and physical were the same, that would mean a lot of mag and stam sets potentially could be put together and just do stuff that they don't currently do. Which, when it comes to what could you do with a build? Head explodes.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that stuff.
Points, right?
Sorry?
Yeah. So I guess in terms of champion points, you would anticipate like consolidation as well on that end.
To some extent, yeah. But they would have to make sure that there's a lot of champion points that we can utilize on the grand scheme of things, because let's face it, there are some people that are sitting on 2k plus. They would be annoyed if they said, you know what, the cap now is 500 or the cap is 1,000, because it would just still be in the same situation as you're in now, where you're sitting with negative CPs. You can't do anything with them. They'd have to do something to make it worthwhile having that many. You couldn't just cut it off. So
yeah, I don't envy them. It's such a huge thing to like tackle on.
Oh, it's got to be massive.
I mean, all for like tackling on for years, because everyone's like,
oh yeah,
it's gonna be work CP 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year
yeah,
ago.
it was Merkmeyer, wasn't it?
Yeah, like,
I think it was Merkmeyer when they announced it.
CP or the rework.
Yeah. So they've paved the way to covering their tracks so far. So you couldn't just go, here's new champion points, because it would just destroy the game. They obviously are doing stuff alongside of that. So they're changing the skills, they're changing the gear, changing how things work bit by bit by bit by bit, because surely they have obviously a greater plan at the end of it, which is great. We're going to eventually lead up to it. When that's going to happen, though, I don't know. We need that soon, because we have waited quite a long time for that. Saying, like rightly so, you just said like 3 years. Waiting 3 years for an update is going to end up putting people off. So they need to do it sooner rather than later. But it looks like they're leaning towards it very, very soon. And I am very excited to see what they do with it. No doubt there will be complaints.
Oh, for sure.
But you've got to test it first.
Right. I think at the same time that there's been a sense of stagnation too in the community in terms of progression. So
yes.
I think that's good overall anyway. It's like the vampire changes, right? People didn't like, oh, I didn't like...
Oh, no.
Right, you remember that? Like, people were like, oh, now we don't have 10% Magris and recovery. I'm just like, but you were only using it for...
Just heavy attack a little bit. Well, exactly. You weren't even using it anyway. You're sitting on 50% Magicka or Stamina the whole time. You didn't even notice.
People just come up with the dumbest stuff sometimes.
Oh, man. Vampire is... there's one skill that really, really grinds me, and that's the Sated Fury, or whichever morph you want to call it. When that was on PTS, they did some alterations to it, and I think 1 or 2 weeks before Greymore was launched, I was really happy with it. Like, this has got some proper risk for reward stuff. Then they released it, and it was just a case of have almost 600 spell damage in your jewelry, or put it all for reduction to health, Magicka, and stam cost, and have it in your skill instead, but die because you can't heal from other people. Like, it's no good anymore. Don't do that. So I got annoyed. But it's the skill line itself. Overall, I was really happy with the way that they approached it as a role rather than just passives. Especially the sneak and go invisible, or sorry, sprint and go invisible. That was really bloody cool. But I'm still, again, anticipating a couple of changes there, because I think Vampire is on a not quite a level playing field as to where they want it to be, all the players. But I think it's, again, like Stone Giant, a step in the right direction. I think they're onto something, but not quite there. Transformation's nuts, though.
It'll be interesting to see where they go with that, plus the future changes.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah. Oh wait, I think I am actually making you late.
You're fine.
I'm sorry. But really, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's pretty
not
late
a
for
problem.
you too. But yeah,
It's 2 a.m. at the moment, but I don't go to bed till like 5 or 6 anyway.
Oh god. But yeah, I shouldn't keep you waiting. Thanks so much again, Xynode. And
no
we
problem.
Need to schedule that second video run. We gotta do it.
Yes, we do. We definitely need to make that happen. That would be awesome.
For sure. Let me know a good time for that. Or day,
I will do.
Anytime.
Dude, thank you very much for having me. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
And best of luck with your channel as well. Keep going and ignore the idiots. That happens. I get loads of them.
Have a good one, dude.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.